So in this video I'm going to go through a number of the Easter eggs from the latest trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now I have made a number of videos based on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and if you're a big fan of this movie and also Quentin Tarantino, I really think you're going to want to watch this video because it actually goes into more detail than any other video available on YouTube. Now one of the early Easter eggs in this trailer is Al Pacino's character, and he says, "All the shooting, I love that stuff. You know, all the killing." Now this is a direct projection of Quentin Tarantino's belief, because each time Quentin Tarantino releases a movie, he comes under more and more criticism based on the violence within his movies. So this is really Quentin Tarantino really challenging those criticisms even before the movie comes out. Now this is a scene that resembles Inglorious Basterds, because Inglorious Basterds is based on rewriting history, and it's based on the murder of Adolf Hitler. Now Inglorious Basterds will follow a very similar concept to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood will rewrite history. So the Easter egg of this scene featuring in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the link between Inglorious Basterds and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood rewriting history. Now this scene here shows Sharon Tate, who is played by Margot Robbie, and she stood next to actually a poster from a real life movie that Sharon Tate appeared in. But also around the time of the filming for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Margot Robbie was widely rumoured to appear in a James Bond movie. So this is just Quentin Tarantino just having a bit of fun and telling Margot Robbie to adopt the pose of the James Bond style. Now this image shows a cinema listing, and the movie title is The Night They Raided Minsky's. Now this was a movie that was released in 1968, and the concept of this movie is based on the origins of burlesque dancing from 1920s, and it's actually a comedy movie. But also, in real life, there's a burlesque night held in Hollywood once a year, and it's dedicated to the movies of Quentin Tarantino. So I'm sure that Quentin Tarantino has heard of this event that's held once a year that's dedicated to his movies, and it's based on burlesque, and it's actually held in Hollywood. So this is perhaps a nod to this event and to his fans by featuring a movie that's based on the origins of burlesque, and then there is actually a real life burlesque event held once a year that's dedicated to Quentin Tarantino's movies. Now this Easter egg here, this is based on a real life television show that was actually shown between 1965 and 1966, and it's a television show called Hullabaloo. Now, it was actually 1966 was the year that Quentin Tarantino moved to Los Angeles, but there's a lot more detail as to why this scene appears in the movie, and it's based on the birds and the link to Terry Melcher, who met Charles Manson on a number of occasions. And I have made a number of videos on that, so if you want to learn more about that point, I'll leave a link to them in the description below. Now this image here, this shows Roman Polanski arriving at the Playboy Mansion. But now Roman Polanski was actually close friends with Hugh Hefner, and together they actually made and produced a movie called Macbeth in 1971. And also Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate did actually appear in a television show for the Playboy Mansion Group. And the Playboy Mansion Group was a production company that also did make this movie Macbeth in partnership with Roman Polanski. Now this image here, this shows a female disciple of the Charles Manson family, and she is hitchhiking. Now in real life, one of the Charles Manson members was hitchhiking, and she was picked up by Dennis Wilson, who was the drummer for the Beach Boys. And then that led to Charles Manson moving into the home of Dennis Wilson. Now Dennis Wilson actually had to have Charles Manson thrown out of his home and all his followers. There's around 20 people that moved into his home and refused to leave. But also Charles Manson did go on to write a song for the Beach Boys, and it was released on one of their albums. And Charles Manson is actually still listed as a writer of this song that appeared and was made by the Beach Boys. Now this image here is probably the most profound one because it features the Capitol Records building. Now Capitol Records was a very powerful music group, and most notably they owned the rights to the Beatles in America. So Capitol Records released all of the albums and singles of the Beatles in America throughout the 1960s. Now Charles Manson actually became a big fan of the Beatles, and he actually believed that they were the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and they were telling him messages of a race war that would break out between white and black people. And in particular, there's one song called Helter Skelter, and Charles Manson adopted the term Helter Skelter, and he used that as a reference to a war that would break out between white and black people. So this Easter egg is the Capitol Records building in the background, and they had a huge influence on releasing the Beatles and making Charles Manson aware of the Beatles record. Now this Easter egg here, this shows the actress Margaret Qualley and her feet within the scene. Now Quentin Tarantino in almost all of his movies includes the feet of women because he has a fascination with the women's feet. So this is why this image is shown in the trailer of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now this image here between Brad Pitt fighting Bruce Lee, this is from the Green Hornet, which was actually made in 1967. Now Brad Pitt was also friends with Brandon Lee, who was the son of Bruce Lee. And Brandon Lee told Brad Pitt that he believed he was going to die young, around the same age that his father Bruce Lee passed away when he was 33. So this is an Easter egg, or a link or a connection between Brad Pitt in real life being friends with the son of Bruce Lee. But also Bruce Lee was accused of the murders of Sharon Tate. Now this scene here shows Brad Pitt's character. Now he was a stuntman but also appears to be working as a maintenance man on the Spahn Ranch. Now in real life there was actually a stuntman who lived at the Spahn Ranch and worked as a maintenance man for the ranch, and his name was Donald Shea. Now Donald Shea was actually murdered by the Charles Manson family at the Spahn Ranch. So this is the link or the Easter egg between Brad Pitt's character, who was a stuntman, and Donald Shea, who was also a stuntman, and they were both actually worked as maintenance men on the Spahn Ranch. Now this scene here, this appears to show Stuntman Mike. Now Stuntman Mike was also a character from Death Proof, which was obviously another Quentin Tarantino movie. But also Kurt Russell, he got his big career break appearing in Cowboy TV Shows. And now that is the character that Leonardo DiCaprio plays. He plays a cowboy TV actor, which is also what Kurt Russell did. So this is potentially the same character appearing in two of Quentin Tarantino's movies. Now this scene here, this shows Leonardo DiCaprio's character living next door to Sharon Tate, but following the night of Sharon Tate's murder, another couple were murdered in their home, and they were Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. And they were actually living next door to a home where Charles Manson had held a party at a year before the murders of Sharon Tate. So perhaps that is the connection why Quentin Tarantino has made Leonardo DiCaprio the neighbour of Sharon Tate. Because the following night of Sharon Tate's murder, Charles Manson goes back to the home of the neighbour he attended a party at. Now this final Easter egg, this shows a number of June buggers in the background. And these June buggers were used by Charles Manson because he told his followers there would be a race war between white and black people, which was based on the Helter Skelter song by the Beatles. Now Charles Manson told his disciples that they would be able to escape the race war by driving off in June buggers and driving off into the desert. Now Charles Manson believed that he owned an underground city in the desert, and he told his disciples that that's where they were going to live. So these June buggers that you'll see in the background actually referencing to a real life concept where Charles Manson believed they would be able to escape the Spahn Ranch using June buggers. So these are a number of Easter eggs that appear in the latest trailer for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and also like and subscribe. But I also have made a number of other videos discussing the plot and the concept behind Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So again, if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below, and also like and subscribe.